Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while, but I wanted to take the time to talk about a few books that I've read since the Christmas break and up until now. A couple of them I actually just finished. I will say I've been in somewhat of a little reading slump. I've been kind of picking around at different genres, so a few of the things I'm going to talk about today aren't really books that I would normally talk about, but I found them interesting and just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about them. So the first one is I Smile Back, and this one is by Amy Kopelman. I would normally probably not pick this book up just because of the premise. It deals with a lot of heavy stuff. It's kind of a darker story, but I found this really cool indie bookstore called $2 Radio, and I'll talk about one of the other books in just a minute, but I also found this one when I was drawn to the other one, and I thought I would give it a try because it sounded interesting. It just didn't sound, like an upbeat, happy kind of book, and it's not, but it's good. So kind of the premise is the main character is struggling with, getting older, with connecting with her kids. She didn't have a really good relationship with her parents. She doesn't feel a connection with her husband anymore, so she turns to like drinking and drugs, and her husband's super supportive through everything and the kids, and so it's just really kind of her going through all of that, which again I said is definitely a heavy topic. It's a short book though, so if you are just looking at something like interesting, that I feel like there are people who can probably relate to a lot of the stuff that she's going through and a lot of her thoughts. But it's short. It's almost kind of like a play in a way, because it has like a part one, an intermission, and then a part two. It's not written like a play, like there's not dialogue in that way. But anyway, I Smile Back, and there's also a movie on it. I haven't watched the movie. I don't know if I will or not, but I do recommend the book. The other book that I got from $2 Radio, and this is kind of what drew me to the site and where I found the place to begin with, was this novel called The Gloaming. And so this one, again, it's a little bit darker. It's very layered and textured, but the premise is the main character her husband has just divorced her, left her for another woman. And they kind of travel around a lot for his job, and so she's left in I think it's Sweden, and she's left in this town kind of all by herself in this apartment, and some accident happens that kind of turns this small community against her. So she decides to leave and go on a safari to Africa, and it kind of picks up from there. And so as you're reading, you're trying to figure out, okay, what happened with her and her husband, what happened back in the town before in Sweden, and why is she here, and where is this going to go now that she is in this part of Africa. So it was really cool. I loved the setting. The author, Melanie Finn, is from South Africa, I believe, and so you can tell, and that really comes through in the atmosphericness of the writing that is set in parts of Africa. I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't expect some of the kind of twists and turns and where it was going. It's definitely not a book I would normally gravitate towards, but like I said, I found this through a book review, and found $2 Radio. I actually have another book that I ordered from them I haven't read yet, but I am looking forward to it. So check them out. They've got some really cool picks that aren't going to be a lot of mainstream stuff that you're probably seeing if you follow a lot of podcasts and book blogs and things like that. Anyway, that's The Gloaming. Highly recommend. One that I wanted to talk about that's just a short romance, It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. It's kind of an opposites attract romance. I found myself starting this one afternoon, and then I stayed up a little past my bedtime to finish, to get to a good stopping point. I couldn't finish all in one night. It was just too much. But then the next day I kind of kept thinking back to it, like, oh, I can't wait till I get home so I can finish it. So it's just one of those kind of novels. It's a sweet, silly romance. It's steamy, definitely. But kind of the premise is that the main character, she is like famous, rich and famous, so she's just like you know, takes pictures and parties all the time, and that's kind of what she does. She comes from a famous family. Well, she gets in trouble, and her stepdad sends her back to where her dad, who has passed away, owns a bar, and they left the bar to her in the will. And so he sends her there and says, you're gonna have to figure things out, you're gonna have to take responsibility. So while she's there, she obviously meets this guy who's the grumpy kind of curmudgeon fisherman, and doesn't know what Instagram is, doesn't know how it works, but somehow they meet, and of course they fall in love. So anyway, really good if you're looking for a short, steamy romance. It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. Great pick. All right, this is one that I got for Christmas. It's a science fiction kind of, not really time travel-y, it's like a world travel-y kind of book, but it's called The Space Between Worlds. And so the premise is you have doppelgangers on all these different planets that are kind of like Earth, but they're not really exactly the same. And they found a way where you can travel to these other places as long as your doppelganger is dead on that planet. So the main character, her doppelganger is dead on almost all the planets. And the planet that they live on, there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of like kind of crazy drugs and things that go on there. And she is able to take on a job at this organization that does the planet hopping to kind of learn about other planets, and you kind of find out more about why they're doing it as you read the book. Anyway, it's a nice job to have because it keeps her off the streets and out of this small, poor town that she's from. So it's a good opportunity for her. So she ends up kind of, you know, going on her missions. Well, one of the doppelgangers that is on one of the planets ends up dying suspiciously. So she's drawn into kind of like this murder mystery type thing, and she's also uncovering the secrets of the people who have this planet jumping operative. So anyway, there's a little bit of a romance in it too. I find it really interesting, and it would make a really cool movie too. I don't know if there's any plans for that. But this is by Micaiah Johnson and The Space Between Worlds, science fiction. And then the last one I wanted to talk about, this is another one I got for Christmas, but I'm actually in the middle of reading it. I wanted to talk about it though because it's so good. It's The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, and I saw this on a lot of like lists when it first came out about how good it was, and it really is good. It's super interesting. I'm learning so much. I mean, I find the time period interesting in and of itself. I mean, dinosaurs are cool, but I don't really know a lot about them besides what I've learned from Jurassic Park or from Ross on Friends. So this kind of helped me understand the way Pangea and the breaking apart of the continents happened, and the way that there were dinosaur-like things before the dinosaurs, and just kind of like that whole timeline, and how fossils work and are depicted, and how, you know, cool stuff about crocodiles and the way they were, you know, back then compared to how they are now. Like I said, I'm halfway through. The writing is super accessible. It does not read like a boring academic book or nonfiction book. The author, Steve Brusatte, he writes it just it's just so easy to follow, and it's almost conversationally. He's got a lot of anecdotes in there, and talks about the people he meets along the way through all of his digs and things. Anyway, so super interesting. Highly recommend if you're looking for something different that's nonfiction. So thank you for checking out my channel. If you have read any of these books or would like to recommend any books, please leave comments down below. I'm so glad you joined me today, and I will talk to you later. Bye!